Hello everyone. So I saw a great blog on the PFRE site the other day, and I wanted to go over the use of contracts in real estate photography. So the first disadvantage I'm going to say is just the time it's going to take you to put this thing together, right? Just the time and sort of the overall cumbersomeness. It's a good thing that you're going to sort of think about your terms within that time, but just to get it written up and everything, and the cost that might be associated with that. So time and cost. You might some people recommend going to a lawyer. I don't necessarily recommend that, but it could cost you something. And another thing is every single client has to sign this. I mean, if you think about that, even if I think about things that are easy, like say adjusting my rear view mirror, doing that every single day, it can turn into a nuisance. And I think if you start to think about this, you'll agree with me. Like doing something every single day can, even if it's insignificant, can really turn into a pain. And having every single real estate photography client sign a contract, that sounds like a huge pain to me. I've never done it, but it sounds like a pain. So you can, and in essence, you can lose and annoy clients really easily, in my opinion. So that's one of the big disadvantages, I'd say, those three or four things. So let's jump in and check out problems that we really have in real estate photography. Like, what are the major problems we do actually have? And the first one and the big one I'm going to tell you right now is going to be late payments, okay? And a lot of you might argue that this could be in your contract and stuff like that, but I'm going to sort of gloss over that, and I'm just going to say, you got to take care of this. And the way I've done it in the past is I have any unknown clients, I have them pay me on site. Anybody that I'm not sure about, I have them pay me on site or before the job is done. You got to have that check in hand when you leave the shoot, okay? At least that's at the very latest. But anyway, that's the number one problem. So if you're taking care of that late payments problem, you don't really have too many other problems in real estate photography, in my opinion, as far as dealing with your clients. So what we have though is every once in a while we're going to have a problem that our contract could possibly solve. I would say if you're working full time in real estate photography, once in every like 3 to 5 years you're going to have a problem that your contract is going to solve. So in other words, you can go to that client and say, well, look, you signed this contract, it says this and this and this, and then he's going to say, oh wow, you're right, okay, I agree with you, I'll have to, I can't use your images like that. So what I'm saying here is the worst case scenario. Let's say you have one problem every 4 years. Well, the worst case scenario is, if you don't have a contract, is you can just say, forget that job, forget him. I'm not even going to collect a payment. That's the worst case, though. If you guys know me, I would never try. I'd never do that so easily. But I'm just saying that's the worst case. And let's say it's a $200 shoot. Well, it really more than balances out, right? Because we didn't have to do that thing where we're having them sign the contract every time. We didn't have to make the contract. We didn't have to print them out. We didn't have to do all that stuff, and we're just losing that $200 once every 3 or 4 years, right? So you see my point? It's not even close to worth it. It's just not even close, okay? So what about we have this situation where we could have the best of both worlds, and that's what I do, and I think it is the best of both worlds. So you put your terms on your invoice. So for example, the photographs are only licensed for the marketing of the property, right? That's right on your invoice, okay? And when people pay invoices, you'll have to go talk to a lawyer about this, but I feel like I understand it well enough for my own business. But when they pay the invoice, they've to a certain extent agreed to those terms, correct? They've agreed because they've paid that invoice, all right? So if you did have a problem, I do think that this particular method could solve that. And I know it sort of counteracts with that advice I was saying, get an invoice on, or get paid on site, but that's all right. I think you guys can find your own way of working that out. But anyway, this is the way to go. Put the terms on your invoice, just a few little simple little terms, like the license is just for the marketing. They can't go ahead and give the licenses to third parties or the photos to third parties, stuff like this, okay? So put that on your invoice. I think it's a very solid way to handle that, and you're not going through, it doesn't have any of the problems associated with it. So here's just somebody I just downloaded. It's obviously not mine. And look at what they've done. Usually what I do, he's put his right up here. I usually have sort of a little note section down here on my invoice, and that's what I actually have. And he's just listed his rights and sort of his terms for that specific shoot right there. Okay, so that's sort of what I do, and I just have that on every single real estate photography invoice. And just a little note here, if you did want something, I'm not saying it's going to be exactly what you want, but in my quit your job course, I do give you my actual invoices and my terms. So again, you might have to modify them, but that might be something that's really helpful for a lot of you out there. I'm just starting you out with my terms that, for me, I've never had any problems, so I feel like they're successful terms. So let's jump into the sort of final thoughts here. So as we saw, the disadvantages are not even worth having that contract. They're just not worth it, okay? Going through all that trouble that we saw with those disadvantages is not worth the worst case scenario of losing the payment for one shoot every 3 to 5 years. And even in that case, you're probably not going to lose a payment. I think most people, when they don't like to work with you, what happens is they'll pay you and stop working with you. So it's really not a problem. Contracts really aren't a problem in most cases, okay? So you're going to have that overall better and smoother client relations, in my opinion. Everything's going to go smoother. And that's sort of what people want on a real estate photography shoot. Oh, hello, Andrew. I'm calling. I saw your website. We have a shoot for 2 days from now. We wanted to know if you can show up at 12. Well, I can make it there at 3 p.m. Okay, and then you schedule, and then that's it. You're going to show up and shoot the photos and deliver the photos, okay? Nobody wants to deal with all this stuff, so I really think that's a better and smoother way to sort of relate with your clients and get things just going in a smoother way, and that's what business is all about, okay? So we also looked at that way to have a contract without a contract by just putting the terms in your invoice. I think that's a really slick way to do it, and it sort of keeps the communications to a minimum, but it still protects you to some extent after that invoice is paid. All right, and let's say you do have a problem. Worst case scenario, you lose a payment for a shoot every 5 years. Okay, a single payment, 3 to 5 years. I'm guessing. You guys can give me your own estimates on that. And who are contracts good for and when are they good? So this is something we didn't talk about. So when you start getting shoots, let's say a $3,000, a $5,000 shoot, you might want to start thinking about this, and maybe this is more of a real estate photography video right here. So something like that. If you're going to build a baseball stadium on an environmentally sensitive area, you're going to want a contract, right? We're doing a real estate photography shoot, so I think there's quite a difference there. So like I said, not so good. Contracts aren't so good for a $200 real estate photography shoot, okay? So thanks, guys. Check out my website. I got a bunch of courses over there for real estate photographers getting into real estate photography, and even people more advanced. So 3 courses over there. And also, don't forget to use my Amazon links if you want to support the channel. It's a win-win. It helps me create content, and it helps you guys, see the content, and also helps me sort of get pumped up to make the videos. So it's a win-win there. Just click down at the bottom in the description over to Amazon, and anything you purchase, I'll get credit for that if you click over from one of my Amazon links, okay? So thanks for your attention. I will see you in the next video. All right, bye-bye.